Hello everyone, Kenty Tiger here with Bengali Engineering and Play. We are back in Space Engineers, and we're kind of continuing on the world survival thing, modified, obviously, because I can't get into the world, so I really just brought the world to me. Which is really to say, I recreated this kind of survival-ish platform and put it in the world. Put it in one of my test worlds. So if you remember from last episode, what we basically did was I copied this mining platform in. This guy was stuck into the voxels here, so I had to move it. We've got our little miner over here. We brought in a load of uranium. Sorry, was having trouble with that word. And then did a couple other changes off screen. In version 187, ISI fails, and there's an exception code that comes up. Someone, if for those of you who actually use ISI's inventory manager, there is a fix. If you bring up the Steam Workshop page, I don't know about copyright stuff, so I'll go ahead and say it outright. There's no copyright infringement intended here. This is just to show everyone what. So ISI's inventory manager. I know a lot of folks use this. In fact, to demonstrate that, here we go. So definitely a lot of subscribers to this. I find. So there's really two. There's Teledin's inventory manager and ISI's. Teledin's is great. It works. It does exactly what it's supposed to do. The problem is, for those of you who are engineers or programmers in real life, know that specific things require coding. So as long as you code correctly, everything works fine. So Teledin's works. It's awesome. But it also requires you to understand how the code works, what it wants, what the syntax of these different commands are. So it's a little bit more complex to make it work how you want it to work. Now, ISI is much more... This is not a slam on ISI. It's much more basic in how it does. It just does it. But with the caveat that, obviously, with things that just do things, there are obvious conflicts with other things. So it's really your choice in how you work. Teledin's works awesome. Tim, it's very commonly called. It's awesome as long as you know how to code everything and make everything work how you want it to work. And there's a lot of good guides out there. ISI's is much more basic in how it runs, which is literally you load the thing into a programming block and it finds everything and launches and goes. So it tries to take the coding aspect out of things. But in the process of that, there's also going to be conflicts, guaranteed, with other things that want to move materials around, for example. So I recommend ISI if you're just getting started with an inventory manager. It's awesome. It does a lot of things for you. In fact, if you go from ISI to vanilla, you'll be absolutely just frustrate the bejeebers out of you because you're having to manage all this stuff yourself, whereas ISI does all this for you, and Tim, for that matter. So I highly recommend both of them. It just depends on your level of coding comfort in how you make it work. So for somebody who's just starting out with an inventory manager, I highly recommend ISI. But getting back to what I was saying here. As you read through all this, the full setup guide, blah, 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 all this stuff that you can see how to make it work. This right now is on the second page, obviously, because comments are comments. So, Made by Saints offered this line. You'll end up with this exception code change in line 2186, as long as you're running the most current version. Issy, the person who is Issy, is on vacation, so so here you see the script. In fact, this may actually, it says no comment. Keen has changed something. Okay, so apply the fix of Made by Saints and without going to this, but this is the line that Made by Saints has offered. So change line 2186 for those of you who are a little bit familiar with how to get in and work with the programming block. This shouldn't be a problem. And just copy paste this line. The line in the code is different. So if you're looking at it for direct compare, you're going to be like, what the heck is this line? This line doesn't match. So just do it. Push the I believe button and do it. And the functionality will work. It works. Trust me, it works. I've done this twice. It works. So I did it in this world and I did it in another world. It works. So just do it. Issy will update their script and make everything work when they get back off vacation. In the meantime, this works. This returns the functionality. So I wanted to point this out. For anybody who screams copyright, I do apologize for that. I'm rather familiar with law and legal aspects. I don't think this will violate any kind of copyright because, after all, this page is public. I don't think there's any hidden information anywhere, but anyway, comments are comments, and people have privacy laws being privacy laws. But I wanted to point this out. This is the change that will get Issy working again, so this is what I did in this world. So, having said all that, take that back out there. Scroll this back to 100%. All right. Whoop, there. So the other thing was strange. When I left off yesterday, I was in the miner. Just remained there because the miner has oxygen and the miner's out of power too. Okay. Anyway, bottom line is the station here ran out of power. Was out of battery power, was out of uranium, was out of everything power. So, whoops, done. The refineries take a lot of power to run. They are, for whatever reason, not taking the ore and turning them into anything. So, for whatever reason, I died. Effectively, while I was sleeping, I died. So I came back to not being able to spawn in the world and all that sort of thing, which I thought something major had crashed, like the whole base blew up or something like that. So don't know exactly what happened there, but doesn't matter. I think I've got it all fixed. So good news here. Now I haven't changed this one, which I might as well. So programmer LCDs, let's edit. Yeah, 186. So I'm going to go ahead and update this. It doesn't really matter. So MMaster actually is really, really good with doing updates. So okay, which is changes this to the brand new code. And okay. Now I think technically when you do the OK, the check code happens for you automatically. I'm not really positive with that, but this is working. So you can actually see that it does update. So strangely enough, one of the things I have noticed with now here's the interesting thing. Right now the draw on the reactors is immense because I just put uranium in here, and yes, I cheated. So, and what I mean by cheated is obviously I have ore, which we got last stream. But refineries require power. So if I can't refine uranium, then I can't power my reactors and I can't run my refineries. So you have the choice of, okay, well, I'm screwed now, I guess I'll just quit, or you cheat and you put uranium in it, you spawn, you know, uranium ingots into the world, and off you go. So that's what I did. I spawned uranium ingots into the world, and we continue on playing as if nothing happened, which for you guys, nothing did. So anyway, this is saying 1 hour 47 minutes. So I don't know if something has significantly changed in reactors, but apparently it will burn through uranium incredibly quickly. So as the power drops off to much lower, then we're obviously going to see some changes here. Okay. Couple things. I'm out of space. Okay. So ISI is showing 100%. Now we've got a couple options here. One of the things, I run my worlds on a ×3 inventory. Let me put all that in perspective, how I came up with ×3. So for those of you who have played Space Engineers for a while, you know your base inventory, and I'm not slamming Keen here. This is realistic. 400 cubic liters, if you think about a space, so 400 cubic liters is quite a bit. So if you consider your spacesuit has 400 cubic liters of room for you to store materials, is not unrealistic at all. Okay, I think that's right up there with being extremely realistic. There's a lot of things in the game that I find to be absurdly unrealistic. So if we are citing realism here, the different power consumption values that are distributed throughout the game, the different blocks and everything, some of them are absurdly silly. Oxygen tanks. Let's take an oxygen tank. In fact, do I have any? I may not have any oxygen tanks. Yes, here's an oxygen tank. I'm going into the K menu. 1 kilowatt. Okay. For those of you who have studied electric and electric design and perhaps are engineers yourself, 1 kilowatt is a lot of electricity. Okay, so what does a tank need 1 kilowatt of electricity? It's a storage vessel. Let's just pretend for a moment it has some sort of computer. Obviously it does, because it has display indicators, so it's got a level indicator. But my game machine sitting here that's running Space Engineers at the moment is a very high-end machine, and it runs on about 600 watts. And it's a full-blown computer running graphics cards, in fact, dual graphics cards, and blah, 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 and has a lot of horsepower. Okay, how much horsepower does an oxygen tank to run indicators need? Okay, my guess is you could do the same thing for about, realistically, 150 watts. Okay, so why did we have 1 kilowatt here? Is that just a base number? So 1 kilowatt versus 150 watts, maybe even 100 watts. Your typical TV at home runs on 100 watts. Okay, a 100-watt light bulb produces a shit ton of electricity. A shit ton of light for 100 watts. Okay, you can get LED lights or fluorescent lights that put out the equivalent wattage of light, the equivalent lumens of light for like 17 watts. 17 versus 100. Okay, so clearly these oxygen tanks aren't very efficient. So, having said that, blah, 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 We were talking about space. So 400, but if you're really truly trying to build in Space Engineers, 400 liters is going to drive you absolutely bonkers, because you basically are going to pick up 2 or 3 components. I'm not even sure you can pick up like a gravity generator or something like that. So 400 is almost impossible to build. You really can't do any sort of realistic survival. Hate to use that word. It's realistic to the point of it's no longer a game, it's real life, so why would I be here? So I'm trying to build something, and so I go to my container, I pull out my 2 components that I need out of the 800,000, go over to this thing, weld, go back to my container, pick up 2 more items, go back, weld, come back, pick up my 2 more items, weld, items, weld, items, weld, items, weld, and in about 2.5 hours I'll actually have completed 1 block. Okay, there's nothing fun about that. So I ran at 3, which gives you 1200. So that works. Same thing, get your items, weld a little, get your items, weld a little, but at least it's 4 or 5 trips instead of 80. So that works. As I got better with doing mods and that sort of thing, or modding in general, because I only have the 1 mod, everything is in 1 mod, then I learned how to... I changed the inventory size. So to me, playing this game is about fun. It's not about... I like having a certain amount of underlying foundational realism. Okay, physics. I want physics to be able to work. Okay, I don't necessarily want to get around physics. As long as it's realistic, I want it to work. But inventory, I want to just be able to grab all my stuff. I want to go over and weld up this block. It's one of the reasons why I use the build and repair system. It's one of the reasons why I've used, you can see in this particular game we had the nanite control factory, because that's what was in the world, so that's what I ended up building here. And it works. It does what it does. In many ways I prefer the build and repair system because its capabilities are a little more flexible with building. And what I mean by that is I can paint a block a particular color and it will grind that block down for me. And at the same time as it's grinding, it takes all those materials and puts them back into inventory. And I don't have to worry about going to inventory, grinding, going back to inventory, dumping off, grinding, going back to inventory and dumping off. I can let the build and repair system do that. So it simplifies the life. The nanite control factory, while it's extremely capable, does not have single block capability. If I want to grind something down, it can do that, but I put a beacon down and it will grind down the whole grid. So there are limitations that you're going to play with both systems depending on how you want it to work. So I've found the build and repair system to be a little more flexible in what it does. In this case, once I detached the grid here from the miner, then everything stopped with the nanite control factory, because it's no longer on the grid that it's attached to. So and completely expected, nothing out of the ordinary there. So build and repair system has some flexibility, some capabilities that the nanite control factory does not. Nanite control factory has some capabilities that build and repair does not. For example, I can set, this has a 300-meter range, for example. This has medical capability, so if I am injured in some way and I have a medical block, which I do on this medical upgrade, then it will heal me long distance, up to, I think it's 150 meters. So it has some capabilities that the build and repair system does not. So it definitely is. Both have advantages and disadvantages that you will have to play with both. I can't recommend one over the other. Um, I do see both of these items, and I know I'm getting off on a little bit of a tangent here, but talking about survival, if you're new to Space Engineers, I have to say avoid both. Okay, inventory management, okay. Um, you want to avoid all of the automated things until you learn the mechanics of the game. And what I mean by that is as you learn how things work and then you replace them with an automated system, that's one thing. But how do I want to say it? You're handicapping yourself dramatically by just starting off with all these neat fancy bells and whistles because you don't know how they work. You never learn how they work because this thing is doing it for you. You never learn how to grind. You never learn how to weld if something else is doing it for you. Convenient as hell, yes. I gotta hand that one to you. But stay away from all these things until you learn how all these things work. When you truly get frustrated with grinding, when you truly get frustrated with having to pick up your 20 components, go to someplace, weld it, then put on the BRS system or the Nano Control Factory and go at it. When you truly appreciate the things that those particular blocks, those particular mods bring to the game. So that's what I recommend. Truly immerse yourself in how the vanilla functionality works, and then when you've had your fill, then you move on. So I highly recommend that. So having said all that, we're back to the survival thing. We have a couple problems here. Obviously this thing is still running because it's got a boatload of batteries, so I don't have any uranium in this specifically. But thankfully the ion thrusters at idle don't take much. So where are we at here? We got to make changes. So what I was saying here was this container is full. That led to the discussion about inventory and inventory management, which I never finished. I'm full. So I'm running at 3 times. The world that I was in was running at 10 times. Let me bring up my own inventory here. You see I have 60,000. 60,000, for those of you who can do math backwards, 60,000 divided by 3 leaves the base number of my inventory, which for this particular suit, which is a Kenti suit, is 20,000 liters. Okay, unrealistic, absolutely, I admit. But again, I'm in this because I want to have fun, not because I want to go through the drudgery of real life. If I wanted real life, I'd not play this game. I would be in real life. I work daily in real life and have to deal with these very things, grinding, welding, all that sort of thing. No, but dealing with people, yes. 20,000 times 10 is 200,000. Okay, it's so absurd that it's like, oh, I can't do this, so I put it on 3. But when I'm using vanilla blocks, that comes into play because, for example, this container I think is yeah. So this is my components container, and it's 100% full. I cannot create anything more because this is absolutely full. Thruster. Okay, don't have any thruster components. Am I out of? Not out of platinum. I have a bunch of platinum. Okay, so ISI does everything according to um, the designator on a container. In this case, this is called components. So what I'm going to do is ammo components 01, and I'm going to change this one to ammo components number 2. Now, hopefully, this will yeah. So what ISI will do now, and what you can see here is, so this is what I was saying earlier, Teledin versus ISI. So you see, I had ISI needs 6 virtual containers. Okay, and what I mean by virtual containers, as long as it's named that. So, for example, I have one container that has all of these names, which is, as you can see on the screen here, ores, ingots, components, tools, ammo, and bottles. Okay, I have one container that is whatever name I want, and then those designators, blah, 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 exactly as is, ores, ingots, component, okay? As long as I have those, then ISI is happy because it has its 6 virtual containers. Okay, as long as those containers are designated, ISI is happy. As long as it finds a container with that name on it, it's happy. Okay, so in this case I had one container called components, and it filled up. So all of a sudden I was locked up, and I couldn't continue because I'm full. So what I did was have now 2 containers with ammo and components on it. So now I have twice the amount here. Okay, so as long as it says components on the container, ISI is happy. To ISI, that's one container. ISI doesn't care. Okay, so that's the things that you want to understand about ISI and how ISI functions. Okay, we are running low on iron. Not a surprise. Okay, one of the things you see now that we have our batteries all charged, you see we went up to 11 hours. And that may not be realistic. So we still have about 44-ish, 43-ish K of uranium in each reactor. So we're still burning through it really quickly. Okay, so we've solved our storage problem for the immediate, which means I still need a lot more iron. Most everything we're building does require a certain amount of iron. The other side of what we need here is thruster components. We need a lot. And right now ISI is focusing on other things. So right now we're building the gravity generators. And apparently we do not have the materials to build the gravity generator, so that's a little bit stuck. At least I think. I'm not seeing any movement here, in other words. So actually, speaking of that, let's just go to production. I'm guessing it's the iron component here that we're missing. Gravel for reactor components we would need, so we don't have any gravel, which we can solve that. So here's where ISI kind of falls down in in the, how do I want to say, the comparative of needs. And what do I mean by that? Okay, so I'm making a particular item in my assemblers. So we as the human space engineer can look and say, okay, I need cobalt, nickel, and iron. Let's pick a realistic one. Let's go back into production here, and motors is the one I had in mind. So okay, production. If I click on motors here, oh, it was, okay. Cobalt, nickel, and iron. So I know I need to make a shit ton of motors. In this case, the iron is red, so I'm out of iron. I, as the space engineer, say, okay, before I queue those up in my assembler, I need to make iron ingots, nickel, and cobalt. So I go out and grab those things, I throw those in the refinery and get those rolling, right? ISI doesn't always do that. ISI queues up stuff into the assemblers and then rotates through, but doesn't always keep in mind, okay, my refineries need to be making those materials that I'm out of. So if I run out of iron ingots, then I need to shunt the iron up to the front in the reactors, or into the refineries, so I can be on top of this. And ISI doesn't seem to do that. Okay, so we're out of gold ore, but we have some gold. We're running very low on silicon, which is a surprise. But I do have some ore, but I'm out of gold ore. We have very little. Oh, we do have some iron ore. Okay, that's not bad. And we have some gravel. So what I'm going to do here is I really need to do this in inventory, so let's go to the refineries. So this one is not doing anything except for platinum and gold, and obviously it's using the platinum somewhere. Magnesium, platinum. Alright, so let me look at ore and figure out where I'm at. So I've got some stone here, so I'm gonna move the stone into refinery number 2 to get it to do what it does, because I do need some gravel to do, and you can see it's taking them, it's moving it out, but that's it. So it says there's silicon. Oh, because it's the nanite control factory. Alright, so here was the problem. The nanite control factory will pull what it needs as far as components goes to do its building. So it would pull what it needs, and then ISI says, oh, I have stuff sitting here, and pulls it out. Okay, so having ISI fighting with me constantly was a pain in the butt. So what I did was I finally locked it. Now here's the problem, is I have ore and stuff sitting here that needs to go somewhere else because ISI can't do anything with it. Alright, so having done that, components. I don't know why I can't move anything. Something strange is even when it... Let me try this again here.
Energy low.
Nothing grayed out, but I can't fucking move it. But I can pull it all to me. How is that all full? It's still full, it just... Alright, so that was me. So it just moved everything over to components. One. Okay, that was me. I'm being stupid. I'm not looking at my screen. Alright, okay. Now that I got off that little tangent here. Okay, so the gravel is done. Cobalt, we can move up. Silicon, I'm out of, so I need to get the miner working. Gold, may not need that much gold, and I have plenty of platinum. So, gold and silicon and iron. I mean, always iron. Okay, so here's one of the problems we have right now. Because this thing fell off the world, there's no way to do anything here. So, nothing on the bottom here. Alright, so what I'm going to do, let me admin tools. We're going to turn off Space Master. All blocks, small reactor. So, oops, gotta get tiger orange colors here because that would be just totally inappropriate. Alright, so I'm gonna go to the components thing here, and that was easy inventory. Easy inventory is really, really neat. Easy inventory pulls the database of the object that you have on your toolbar. So let me back up. Two caveats to easy inventory. You absolutely cannot use easy inventory with Space Master turned on, and you can't use it in creative mode. Okay, now why you would need to use it in creative mode, because after all, you click and boop, it builds it. So you don't need any components at all. But running in Space Master, if you right click on something, you'll delete it, because right click is delete, left click is paste, right? So don't forget to turn off. But if you're running in total realistic mode, then you have your right click button, which does nothing in true survival mode. So here's how you use easy inventory. Obviously you have to load that as a mod. It runs in the background. So I put something on my toolbar here. As you can see, I put a small reactor here. I walk up to any port. It doesn't matter what it is. Okay, I happen to be at the components chest, but let me demonstrate this. So I queue up. Now this is a small ship, large grid reactor, but oh well, because if I actually did the one I wanted, it's going to change the second I get onto the big grid. So I select this on my toolbar. So this is what I would be pasting. I go up to a access port. So you notice this is a reactor, okay? But it has access to the conveyor system, which means it has access to those things. I'm going to right click, watch what the screen says. Successfully withdrew all items to build the small reactor. Okay, so you can walk up to any conveyor port that is connected into the conveyor system and it will attempt to pull. Okay, you don't have to just pull from this, but you right click with this object selected and it will pull all the components required for that object, or as many as you can, into your inventory. Alright, so I have that object selected. This is for those of you who are aware of one of the limitations of the small ship reactors is there's one port. So if you build it into the conveyor system, you do not have the ability to put conveyor systems are powered. Okay, it's kind of one of those things that if they're not green, you can't do anything. So in this case, my batteries are dead and my reactors don't have any uranium. So in this case, I'm not connected onto the grid. So my batteries are dead, my connector is dead, so I have no way right now to get power to this vessel. It's utterly dead. In this case, I don't have any way to get to the reactors because all of the reactors are connected into the conveyor system. The conveyor system is dead. So this is a jumpstart reactor. So what I have here is a reactor. Of course I don't have any of my tools. Alright, so suit energy is critically low. Yeah. So we'll take care of that while we're here. So filling up on gases, so we're good with gases. And conveniently the reactor is right under this anyway. So the goal here, just like it was in the Enginerds world, we want to get this miner working. This miner. Okay, and right now I've got good port thrust. Okay, so thrusters on the port mean I'm going to go to starboard. I've got decent up-down thrust. Oh, my bust. Here's what I think I'm going to do. Is I'm going to grind some of these down to the point of I'm going to get this balanced, which means I have equal thrust in all directions so I can actually maneuver this ship, and then we're going to go out and start mining. So all I'm thrusters is the only thing left on the ship here. Okay, so as long as I have enough ability to move around and control it, then I'm okay. So that's what the goal was. Once we have a bunch of materials mined, then the next caveat is we will rebuild the platform here. Okay, so miners first. This miner I've got to work on. I just put the jumpstart reactor in. We'll continue on that. Hold that thought. We're going to do some creative grinding. We're going to take thruster components out of some of these ion thrusters and put them into other ion thrusters so we can get thrust equally in all 6 directions. Okay, so we'll work on that. Then the goal is, you notice this is 6 wide. Okay, I want to make this 7 wide. So what we're going to do is take, we'll look at this end of the ship. So originally I built 2 refinery assemblies back to back, and it was a great idea at the time, but like all things, needs have changed. So what I want to do is turn this into something a little bit more realistic, a little more flexible, and something that I could actually turn into a vessel if I wanted to. Now, right now, it's a production platform, and I'm going to keep it as a production platform. What I really want to do, and this is the ultimate, or one of the ultimate goals, there being 2 ultimate goals. One is I build a tug that will take this as a barge and move it around. Okay, so that's the ultimate goal, to become mobile here. Goal number 2 is to turn this production facility into a vessel of its own right, which is to say thrust in all directions, gyros, and make it mobile. So both goals are the same, is to make this platform mobile. The problem here is, because this is an even number of blocks, you always have trouble because there's like the containers. They're 3 by 3, but yet I have a 6 block wide main body here, if you will. So I want to make this 7 so I can match things up, basically. So what I want to do is cut half of the refineries and upgrade modules off, put a single block in the middle, and then move the secondary refinery portion away. So basically moving stuff so I can recreate it and then reattach. So that's the goal. Is we'll be doing a lot of grinding, a lot of moving stuff, and that's later on when I have all the components that I need to play around. So the first 2 goals are to get the small miner going so I can get some more ore. The second goal is to get the big miner so it's mobile, or rather mobile in all directions, because as you can see, there's a lot of ion thrusters there that are working just fine. Okay, so jumpstart. How do we jumpstart? Well, you have to build a reactor that you have access to, which is that one, and we're gonna leave that there. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna change a little bit. Being a Navy guy, if you have one, it's always on the port side. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna put this on the port side. So there's the small reactor and my welder. Okay, so there's my jumpstart reactor. And we're gonna grind this down now that I have to have my grinder. There's my grinder. So I'm going to grab a single uranium ingot out of here. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the uranium ingot in. We're going to jump in the cockpit and we're going to lock. And at that point, we should be able to draw power off of this guy. So in, lock. Okay, so we're going to pull power from get out of here. We're going to pull power from these reactors to charge. I'm not sure what the nanites were doing there. And did we really run out? Wow, we ran out really fast. But it is, after all, a jumpstart reactor. I did the one just because I'm being silly. Okay, so the good news is ISSI doing what ISSI does has moved uranium around. So let me go ahead and go into the inventory system here, and if we look at reactors, so all of these guys, so these are the two base small reactors, and these are the ones, so the block color tells you that. So it has put a certain percentage into, well, 3 of the 4 reactors. So for whatever reason it did not put anything in down here. So for some reason that one is detached, and I don't know why that is. So that one is all right. I'm not seeing something here. So what I think is that reactor was actually my jumpstart reactor. So reactor. So reactor 1 and 2 are the ones on the station, and we do need to rename those for the sake of this. But reactor 1, 2, 4, and 3. Okay, so there were 4, sorry. 1, 2, 3, and 4 are the small reactors on the miner. Reactor number 6 is actually not reactor number 6. It's the jumpstart reactor. So let me, darn it, control panel. Reactors. Okay, reactor 1. So let me go ahead, and this is why I'm OCD about certain things. This is small base 01. And if I really wanted to start messing around, so let me do this real quick. This is a K. This is reactor small minor jump start. So now that's designated. Okay, so this is arbitrary, completely arbitrary. Okay, but I look at this as the port side. Okay, and the reason I call it port, medical bay, there's only one, it's on the port side. Okay, so we're gonna call this port side, which means this is going to become the starboard side. I'm gonna go ahead and turn these on the HUD, and the reason why I want to do that is I want to make sure I'm getting these. This is just more OCD for you, and eventually these will show up. Or maybe not, because the antenna is turned off. Okay, so so 4 is on the bottom, and reactor 2 is on the starboard top, right? So let's name those first, because it's another Space Engineers fuck up. People don't play their game. The developers don't play their game. It, for whatever reason, automatically tries to combine markers, and this is new, and I don't know if there's a way to turn that off or not, but it is driving me fucking crazy because I don't want it to do these things. Okay, reactors. So we know reactor 3 is small, minor, and I'm going to do a control C there. So this is small, minor, upper, starboard. So there's going to be an upper port, an upper center, and an upper starboard, right? So reactor 4, so control A, control V. This is lower center. Okay, there's only one of them down there, but lower center. Now, I'm guessing that number 2 is in the middle, but that may not be the case. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a control A, control C. We're going to call this upper port, and we're going to see what happens. So again, it's combining these two signals, and God knows why the fuck it's combining those two signals. How do I turn that off? Oh, well, not only does it combine those two signals, but it shows you exactly where they are. So they had all 3 of them. So upper starboard actually is, wow, I totally screwed these up, didn't I? Okay, I guess we'll just leave, we just now have to leave all the markers on full information all the time. So be it. Reactor. Okay, so upper starboard, so let's change this one first. This is center. Upper starboard is actually upper port, and then this one here is starboard. Wow. Upper starboard. Okay, so minor, 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 and base. Okay, now we know what all of these different reactors really are. All right, so port, center, starboard, lower, and this is the jump start. All right, awesome. Okay, so we'll go into reactors again and turn the HUD off. I don't know if that is actually... Yep, that one was never on there anyway. But we can fix that. We can fix that. So we select highlight reactors group. Even though right now it's showing up as one group, it's that both of these objects have that group. So save off and off. All right. So 2 drill miners, because the antenna in this case is on. The base does not currently have an antenna, which is something that will remedy. In fact, I can go ahead and remedy that. It's not really critically important at this point, but okay. And number 9 was my antenna, which I turned off. Okay, for just a moment, I'm going to disconnect. Oh, okay, that's right. That's fine. The reason it's saying on is because I have a floodlights group on the base as well, and the floodlights on the base are on. But the floodlights on the miner here are off. Okay, so the little guy is running. Let us have a look. Okay, so we have a couple running back here. I don't know if I'm going to just pick an arbitrary number 8. So I'm going to leave these 8. There's only 2 on this side. So I'm going to try and make 8 in every direction, which means I need my grinder here. So I want to take all of the thruster components. Because I need those thruster components elsewhere. And this doesn't have any thruster components. So in this case, this particular grinder is actually really good because I have a lot more control. Okay, so we have 8 and 8. And we'll do the same thing here. This becomes a game of inventory. And fortunately, because I have a pretty extreme inventory, then I'm okay. But ultimately, the goal here, the point of this evolution, is to move thruster components. So creative grinding to ultimately move thruster components around. Okay, so grind turns into weld. Alright, so there is now those, and let's do the same thing here. Okay, so these are my 4 now cardinal directions, 4 in now every direction. Oops, not quite. I lied. I spoke too soon. Alright, so there we go. So 8 up, 8 down, 8 port side, 8 starboard side. There we go. Alright, now, question is how many thruster components? I have 240 and I need, I think, 80 each. So that means I've got, what, 3 left. Wow. I'm going to go down here and do this one. Now I think this one is already done, yeah. Okay, so there's 4 of my forward, but I do need 4 more. But I think, yeah, I'm out of thruster components. So, do we have enough? We've got quite a few here. Quite a few. So, the question is, can I get close enough without roasting myself? Change there. Okay, those are the 2 I want to remain. Leave those 3 there. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to shift back over to our welder. We are going to put the 8 forward here. I'm just doing this to be symmetrical here. Okay, and we have the 3 here, and we're going to leave those 3. And I think I had enough that I can get away with that. Okay, so that's now 8 forward, which is to say the reverse thrusters. And then we're going to do these 8 first. So we've got the other corner is already done. But we still need to do the upper corner on the other side. Let's do inventory. 133. Okay, so I'm going to have just enough to do one of these, which means I do need to steal the one off the bottom there. And I don't quite have enough thruster components here. Yeah. So you have to have all the thruster components to get this to the point of being functional. Okay, so we do have to indeed steal I'm just going to steal enough to make this work. Now, there's portions of this argument that are a little bit silly because we're talking about realism here. I understand why it was done this way. So, thrust. If we look at thrust, and again, for those of you who have studied physics, this makes perfect sense, and this may actually be as big of a pain in the butt with you as it is with me. Now, having made that statement, I do understand exactly why it was done this way. Okay? But there's two portions of this conversation. Number one is reality. Number two is simplicity of programming. So, reality. Newton's laws state very specifically that an object, it doesn't matter what it is, a mass, the acceleration of a mass, and I'm paraphrasing here, but the acceleration of mass is directly proportional to the force applied to it, and inversely proportional to the mass of the object. In other words, the weight of the object. Now, weight is a function of gravity, so I tend to stay away from the statement of weight. I have the same mass standing here on Earth as I would on the moon or being out in space outside of a gravity well. Mass is constant. Okay, mass is mass. My weight, however, on Earth is going to be dramatically different than my weight on the moon, because the gravity is different. Weight is a function of gravity. Okay, so mass times gravity equals weight. Okay, it's a stupid equation, not really true, but you get the idea there. So maybe mass plugged into the function of gravity equals weight would be better stated. So because gravity on Earth, gravity A, is different than gravity Moon, gravity B, then you're going to come up with two different weights, even though I have the same mass. So mass is the same, plugged into two different functions of gravity equals two different functions of weight. Pretty straightforward thing. So making this thing move, according to the laws of Newtonian physics, is I am applying force in the 6 different cardinal directions. Now, why the 6 different directions? Because I can make this object move in any direction in the 3 planes of 360 degrees by applying force in those 6. Okay, so it doesn't matter. Now, we have gyros, which also apply a mechanical force, a momentum force in this case, to spin this object. But, okay, that's the reality, is that when we apply force, the force in this case is applied where everything is a moment arm. Okay, if we get into true mechanical engineering, if I apply force on an object, then the force that that particular thing, thrusters in this case, apply are going to apply on the moment arm of, I know I'm talking mechanical engineering at you, and I apologize for those of you who don't understand mechanical engineering. That's not a slam. Not everybody's an engineer. I understand. Every thruster, so an object has a center of mass. It's just a function of physics. It's a center of mass. Okay? Every thruster bolted onto this mass, this object, whatever it happens to be, is going to apply force in its direction, but via the moment arm to the center of mass. Okay, and I know that sounds like a very complex question, and in fact it is. So let's jump into Space Engineers, which is to say the function of programming, the simplicity of programming, which was my second argument here. In Space Engineers, all thrusters apply direct direct force to the center of mass. The reason it does that is because I don't have to calculate moment arms at all. Okay, calculating every moment arm for every axis versus the center of mass would become, it's not to say it would be difficult or even remotely impossible. It's that you have a finite amount of calculations because a CPU is a CPU. The more calculations I have to do per second, the more delay we have. So if I want 60 frames a second, then now I'm down to 58 frames a second because I have to calculate every single moment arm that is applying force onto the center of gravity. Okay, so in this case, in Space Engineers, we completely eliminated the need to calculate moment arm force at all, which is going to be a spin force. Okay, so in my case, I'm applying all of these things centrally. Which is to say symmetrically to the long axes of the vessel, because I have an even number of thrusters in every direction. So the upside is that it makes it very easy in terms of programming to apply force directly against the center of mass. Simplicity in calculations, not realistic. So this vessel would in fact have completely different flight characteristics in real life than they would in Space Engineers, because all of the thrusters in this case, all of the ones that are operational here, are applying directly to the center of mass, whereas in reality every single one of these thrusters would be applying a force in their designated direction, but via a moment arm back to the center of mass. So the handling capabilities or handling characteristics of this vessel would be dramatically different. Okay, there you go, your physics and engineering lecture for the day, all from Kenty Tiger. Okay, let us jump into the cockpit of this vessel, which hopefully will be right here, and we're going to do the flight check. And this is a very, very basic flight check. Okay, now I have only battery power in this, which we will remedy shortly, but let's get in. Okay, I'm missing a few things. What were those things? Don't even know what they were. No idea what they were. I'm guessing because I've only got the one I've only got the one connector, so maybe the other connector. Sorry folks, I'm really curious. I gotta jump out and look. Nope, it's here. Starboard side connector. Port side connector. Truly don't know what that was. Okay. We'll fix that in a moment. We have very little maneuvering room. Understood. So, here's down thrust, and I'm moving. And I'm stopping. Because I'm stopping, that means I have upward thrust. So, port thrust, starboard thrust, forward thrust, backward thrust. Okay, so I do not have much thrust. Okay, this ship is incredibly heavy. So I'm operating on half the cardinal direction thrust that I normally would. And as you can see, there's just a boatload of thrusters that are not finished in the back and the front, which is to say the forward pointing thrusters and the backward pointing thrusters. So in this case, it is what it is. I really, at this point, needed to get this miner in operation. Okay. One of the things that I want to do okay, I need uranium. So what we're going to do is creatively steal. So I have less than 1,000. Whoa. Whoops. 400. Where did it get that? Oh. Issy. So, I could have done this right there, by the way. I'm just being stupid. Issy. Edit. Down here, let me find it. Right here. Issy manages the amount of uranium put into this might have actually been one of the problems, manages the amount of uranium to go into a reactor. This is a good thing and a bad thing. It's good because it balances everything. It always maintains that amount of uranium in all the different reactors. The downside to this is you may have a whole lot more uranium than you thought you did because it's balancing everything. So if you have reactors that can hold a whole lot more than any values that you put here, these are actual values. So the amount of uranium in each reactor, that's a literal statement. Okay, so in this case I want 10,000, so 10 kilograms. And I think one is, or maybe it is 1 gram. I don't know, 1 unit, whatever it is. So anyway. So I was thinking I was down to, so we have 75,000. So this is uranium in storage. This is not, this does not account for the uranium that we have in our reactors. I don't believe. So you saw that went from 65. Maybe maybe it did because I just stole 4,000 out. I think I'll steal 4,000 more, actually. And that should balance. Okay. So I'm going to put 2,000 in each one of the reactors here before I have an issue. Okay. Okay, sorry. There's two other things that we're going to build on here. One, because I've already got one built. I built with the intention of oh, inventory reactors. Sorry, gotta go OCD. Reactors on the terminal. So reactor, small, on HUD. Where are they? Okay, so reactor 3 and reactor now small are the port and starboard reactors, right? Okay, so reactor 3. So reactor 3, we're gonna change the name here to reactor small to designate its small reactor, and this one is the port side reactor. Let's see. In this case, this is our starboard reactor. 2, I think, is our top. Reactor 2, yep, is our top center. So reactor 2, we'll just call that upper and lower because they're centered, but lower. There we go. Now they're, oh. That's arbitrary designator, but medium minor. That's because when this guy actually connects in, then okay, so medium minor, we kind of designate all these different things. Cargo transmit. This container, these two containers are small, just regular small containers. Whoa, that's not a good thing. Everything owned by me. Okay, that's fixed. So inventory, containers. Okay. Don't know why the hell I have that in there, or why it was moving around for that matter. Alright, so large container, obviously these are large containers. Small containers, small container. Okay, so the small container top and the cargo transmit, wherever the heck it is. Oh, because it's, let's use cargo. So cargo transmit is a small container. Okay, so cargo transmit is, so I use PCAS cargo teleporters, cargo transmitters, maybe it's called. Let's have a look. So we're going to remove that. PCAS over here, cargo teleporter. Okay, based on some theories of Nikola Tesla. So a little bit pricey as far as what it does, given what we have available right now. Not really at all, but a little bit pricey. So in this case, I want to get up to a port. When the port goes active, I can right click and I withdrew it all. Okay, so this singular device will, it's a two-way thing. It needs a device on this end, which does not yet exist. In fact, let me go ahead and remedy that theory, because I do need two of these. Okay, cargo teleport, good. Okay, so cargo teleporter, The first thing I need to do, let me get myself out of the ion thrusters there. I believe this is my cargo transmit, which means I'm gonna put the box, this magic box, right here. Okay, now this is based on a sorter model. And the reason it's based on a sorter model is because it actually has some of the capabilities like a sorter does. So I'm going to paste this in right there, and the other thing I'm going to paste in, and I may or may not have the materials for it, is an elbow, a conveyor tube. There we go. And yeah, just like that. So we want to connect on my cargo transmit, which is a specifically designated cargo container, which is to say a specifically named cargo container. It's a standard container in every respect. It just has a special name, which is to say it's a name that I picked. Okay, it can be anything. You could call it anything. I chose to call it cargo transmit, and I'm pretty consistent across my builds with that, specifically for a reason. All right, this is not, there we go. Okay, built, and boom. Now, the reason I'm putting this in is I want this thing to continually transmit cargo, this is to say the minerals, back to my station so they can be processed. So I do not have to come back to the station to unload. Don't have to unload at all. It's constantly unloading. Okay, K. So this is transmitting back to, I'm transmitting to a container called elsewhere receiver. No copyright infringement intended here. I love the Khajiit. For those of you who don't know who the Khajiit are, this is copyright Bethesda, which is a game company, Bethesda Softworks. And I'll stop right there. So elsewhere is where the Khajiit live. It's their home province, or the name of their home province, rather. So elsewhere. So yes, stolen gleefully with smiles from Bethesda Softworks. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the Elder Scrolls series of games. So I talked about a combination. We need a combination of cargo teleporters, one that's sending, one that's receiving. This is obviously transmitter is the sender. We need a designated cargo container. One more thing I need to do is drain all. We need a designated cargo container. Now, interestingly enough, the way these work is not necessarily in conjunction with one another. They do, but they don't. The teleporter is going to steal all the cargo it can, bring it into its internal inventory, its internal space, and then transmit it to a container named elsewhere receiver. Any container. It can be anything, as long as it's named elsewhere receiver. So this particular device does not need a container on this grid to work. It will work without it. The receiver on the other side is from cargo transmit, and I do this on all my miners. I have a cargo container named cargo transmit, and then when I'm using this setup, so this is a vanilla ship, or it was vanilla right until I pasted the teleporter down, with cargo transmit on the other end. So it's from, or an F colon, cargo transmit, and then it will pull from that container. So it's a two-way street. Okay, so this is working as long as the antenna works, which it is. Okay, so I have a, well, let's make sure it is. Yep, medium minor. Okay, so the antenna is working. And then we go over here. One of the things that we need to do at this point is okay, I went into that one, which is okay. Right now, I do not need this guy. Now this was put on here. Okay, this I was fighting with Izzy, and in fighting with Izzy, you eventually kind of do things to get around Izzy. So I'm gonna go ahead and grind this guy down. Before I do that. Okay, nothing in this, which is so this one. Let me make sure. Exclamation point manual. Izzy will not use this assembler because I have designated it as manual. Okay, it won't pull inventory from it. It won't put stuff in it. It won't take stuff out of it. It will just leave it the hell alone, which is what the manual is all about. In this case, I know for those of you who actually watched the Enginerds series that I posted up, I was trying to build this, and this takes a shit ton of gravity components, and Issy was queuing 1 or 2 or 3 at a time, and I just got very impatient, so I built another assembler down here and designated it as leave it the hell alone, and it just did gravity components. That's all it was doing. So that was the whole purpose behind that. Okay, but here's what I need to do. I need a access point which is up beyond that. It's the other side of this thing, and so done. Okay, conveyor. So that's my access port. What I need is a small container, which is that. I am going to oh darn. The one time I knew that would do that. Alright. I already have the materials for the okay, so this is the cargo container. This is going to have the designator. Well, let's weld it up and do it. We'll just demonstrate as we go. Okay, so small cargo container, nothing fancy here. We'll go into K. It's called small cargo container. Imagine that. But think again. This is called elsewhere receiver. Why is it called elsewhere receiver? Because I'm transmitting from the miner to a cargo container named elsewhere receiver. So this is elsewhere receiver. Standard container, I've just got it named something specific. Alright. Having done that, then we're going to put the cargo transmitter, teleporter, right there. We're facing it around the correct direction. That's why that big arrow is on there, because it functions as a sorter functions, but it transmits cargo. Okay, into the control panel. Okay, cargo teleporter. Now we have to tell it what's going on here. So bracket F colon, which means I'm receiving from, pull from, cargo transmit, bracket. Okay, so if we remember on the other side, I had a container called cargo transmit. So I'm pulling from cargo transmit. From cargo transmit. Okay. So there we go. All set up. As long as the antennas are working, everything's happy. Everything should work. All right. So, having played with all of this stuff, we're going to do one more thing. So, I'm going to jump in here. I'm going to unlock, and I'm going to move forward. And out. All right. I need a small container, which I have here. There's one more thing I need, which is... Oh, I've already got it on my toolbar. Okay. Hang in with me here. So, easy inventory. I'm going to pull in the materials for that. I'm going to pull in the materials for that. Then I'm going to go over to the designator and we're going to pull in the materials for a connector. Okay, so I have all that in my inventory right now so I can build that. Now, here's a caveat. This is all on small ships, so I'm not even going to get remotely close here. The first thing I need to do is grind this connector down. Boom, done. And I'm going to put in a cargo teleporter. Okay, there's an arrow on here. So make sure you get the arrow facing the right way. Okay, so there's that. And then we have to put our connector back on, which is this. Have to make sure it's lined up correctly. And then I need a cargo container. And the cargo container doesn't have to be anything special. It just needs to be a cargo container. In this case, I'm going to put it on the port side. It's a dummy container. It's not really going to do that much. And I'm going to put it right there. I know it looks really silly there, but I'm going to put it right there. Why did I put it there? Because that's a connection into the universe here. So the only other place I could put it is here, which then would stick it off the side of the ship, and I don't want to do that. Okay, so number 6, which is my welder, and let's start welding this stuff up. Now, what do you guess this is going to be named, huh? So we're continuing on with our exact same methodology here. So this is called cargo XMIT. Pretty straightforward, right? And we're going to weld up this guy. And they're going to, whoops, weld up this guy. All right. Okay. Now, here's one of the problems which is going to be very problematic for this particular vessel. In fact, let me here's the problem. This functions like a sorter. So, I can move material out of this vessel, I just can't move anything in. Okay, so it's definitely a problem, but I can't move anything in. So just, you got to be aware of what the limitations are. So here's what's going to happen. If I'm using ISI can no longer put materials into the reactors, could no longer put ice into the oxygen generator because of this thing right there. So, all right, having said that, let us I didn't want to do it, but I'm going to do it. Take this off. All right. Number 3. Connector. Welder. And this is just connector because it's the only one. I didn't want to do this because I didn't originally want to have anything hanging down underneath this plane, but because the drills are the drills, we're going to go ahead and do that. All right, we're going to put it here. Not ideal, but it will let ISI continue to do everything that ISI does, which is a good thing. All right, back to, oh, not a grinder, welder. But it will still give me the functionality that I want. All right, so now to designate things. So cargo transmit is our specialized container, which in this case won't do a whole lot because of where it is. It's not central to anything. And in fact, this is the only container on this vessel. This container was not built with vessels, with containers. It just didn't need to be. Designator, transmit to, guess what it would be? Okay, now you notice I have both of these configured exactly the same. I've played with this before. It doesn't seem to matter. Okay, as long as there is a container somewhere that says elsewhere receiver, it will pull cargo from it, or rather push cargo to it. If there is, on the other end, if there is a cargo transmit, it will pull cargo from it on the other end. And in this case, I have one here and I have one on the other ship. And hopefully, everything will work well. In both cases, I'm not really using either one of those containers. Okay, so this is the new miner. So what I have to do, just because I like having all of my blueprints the same, this is a completely vanilla miner except for the cargo transmitter. Cargo teleport. All right. Let me make sure this is all me. One last thing. Owner, me. Not sure how that happened. Battery 1 and 2. Yeah, I could change all those, but will not. Okay, and then we're gonna blueprint this. We'll put our away. Now that I've made so many minor changes. Alright, cargo. Where is it? Oh, because I took the 2 drill miner out. Okay, so both of these guys actually are going to function the same as they did before. The only differential, darn it. So we change, and we're going to put that there. Toggle block on and off. We're going to leave the forward camera here. This is the aft camera, and I need to put this connector back on because I dumped it. This is the on-off. And I do not have anything on the other bars. That's it for this guy. You know what? I'm gonna make a couple more changes here. So this is still the toggle on off. This is going to be my switch lock. I'm gonna move the forward camera is there, and the aft camera is there. This guy is gonna go here, which is my cargo transmitter. And for the moment, I'm going to turn that off. And then my groups and floodlights is actually going to be here, which is on off. Right now they're off because I'm disconnected. So I like to have my drills and my spotlights because the spotlights, in this case, the floodlights, are related to the drill. Makes sense, right? And then my cargo transmitter there. Now, the cargo transmitter in this case, you have to have an antenna on the grid, and it has to be turned on, which means you are limited to the range of the antenna. So if I have a 5,000 meter range, then I go outside of that, I can no longer transmit cargo to the other end, even if the other end has a greater range. Alright, so having fixed my button bar here, let's go in, and there was one thing I wanted to check, and 50,000. I don't remember what it was I wanted to check here. Okay, out. We're going to do a copy. Oh, we can't do a copy because Space Master is turned off. So delete blueprints, yes. Sorry, close, and that's the updated blueprint there. Okay, so having done that, we're gonna park this guy because we're gonna try out our big guy. Number 5 is our reverse camera. We're backwards, so we're just going to slightly move. We're going to line up our reticle on that light, and then we're going to back up. And we should lock in. Ready, so number 6, lock. T. Step out. Did I break my camera? Nope. Okay. So obviously we're in really, really close to that, which is never a good thing. Okay. Gotta fix this thing here. What I mean by fix, we'll go into the cab here. We have these reactors here that are all set up with the HUD on. So I'm gonna turn that off, and then we're gonna put those back on the off terminal. So containers can actually go, well, yeah, so what we'll do is the containers can go into containers, so save. off on the toolbar and terminal. This is going to remain on the toolbar because I want to have access to it on the screen there, but it will go into systems miscellaneous, so save and then turn off on the terminal. Okay, so we just have our antenna in this case and the others. So G, because we want to fix a few things. Originally I had my antenna over here, so we're going to go ahead and put the antenna in here. So toggle block on and off. We already have the ore detector. In this case, the conveyor sorter, which is in the front, we just leave that alone. And then the cargo teleporter, I want to have the ability to turn that on and off. So really, we have no need to turn off our maneuvering thrusters. Now, half of those thrusters probably don't exist right now, which is fine. So we're going to go ahead and remove that from the toolbar. We're going to move some things over. So I have a port connector here, which is going to switch lock and then on off. And I always do the on off because if you pause for long enough, then this will go back into the magnetic version again, the magnetic attract again, and you most of the time can't pull away. We have to have a way to completely turn it off, and then my cargo teleporter will then toggle block on and off here. One of the things I forgot to check on the other side, which I know I didn't do, is to turn the teleporter. So the cargo teleporter drain all is what we want there. So what we're going to do is go back over here and do the same thing over there. Okay, so everything is good here right now. We just need to go and use it. So let me go ahead and T out of here. We're going to go back over to our welder because we forgot to do that one thing. So back into the cab, we're going to unlock for a moment, which is number 6. We're going to go into K. We're going to grab this. We're going to turn drain all on. And then so connectors in this case, because I've only got one. So we're actually going to put all 3 of these things. So the connector we want on our toolbar. We do not need that on the toolbar. And all 3 of them have an inventory, so no biggie there. So highlight all 3, control, select my group, save, and then off on the terminal. So we made minor changes here. We're going to get out of the cab. We're going to delete this from our blueprints directory, so it's gone. We're going to close, and we're going to Control B, which will copy that, the current blueprint in, and then we're going to go back into the cab here, lock back up with a number 6, then exit. Okay, so that's all set up. It's on here. That way it can be charging batteries as it's going, like everything else. Okay, let's look and see what the... we have 58K, so we're doing pretty well, and we do have 70,000 ore. All right, so we're not doing too bad. So what are our hard spots? Iron, which we always have iron issues, silicon, and gold. And we always have uranium. So we mined some uranium yesterday, but we're not hurting for uranium. Let's get a time check. 15 hours of uranium. So we're plenty good on uranium. Uranium is not a priority at this moment. So iron is our biggest priority because it's preventing us from building certain things. I just want to check to make sure my cargo transmitter is, or my cargo thing is set up correctly, which it was not. And then we have our elsewhere receiver is set up. Okay, so we should be good to go with our transmitters. Should be. And off we go for mining. So hopefully we will clear, not have any major issues. I just have to pilot this judiciously. Make sure that if I swing the butt end of this down that I'm not going to damage anything. And what I think I'm going to do is start with iron by way of right here, and so what I want to do is lower down but not damage anything. So my intention here is to completely drill out this hole, including the stone. So my cargo transmitter is on, and I might as well leave it on. I've got plenty of storage here. My antenna is on. I don't really need my ore detector on. Alright, so one of the things I want to view, I think all the drills are done and they are all working. So, at this point, it is just a matter of seeing when we hit. I suppose if I really wanted to, alright, it's alright, I gotta do something. Oops, I shouldn't have done that. Turn the drills off. So I put in this thing. And I'm going to take it out. So in the center of this is a spherical generator, and when I was doing a lot of handwork, this made a lot of sense. But I'm no longer doing a lot of handwork, so I'm going to get rid of this. So the spherical generator there in the center is what's kind of wreaking a tiny bit of havoc here. Not much, but it's doing enough that alright, so I gotta do this one at a time here. Of course. So just to make this a little easier, this is a light armor block. Or is it a heavy armor? Light. It is light. Okay, so I'm gonna grind this. And we put in a light armor block. Because the light armor block is actually what is holding the station bolted to the stone here, to the asteroid here. Oops, wrong one. It's this set that is doing what it's doing, so oops. Okay, so we have reconnected I don't know why I have a slightly different tiger orange here, apparently 1500 or 15100 100. Don't know. That's weird. That's a little strange. Alright, so continuing our grinding. Having a slightly faster grinder would make this a little bit less painful.
energy.
Oops. Out of energy. Not sure exactly how this changed. I don't think there's anything in there, but that's just, again, maybe an OCD. Oops. For some reason oh, you know what? I know what it is. So because this was a brand new build, it was like 14.8. I don't think I've actually got any black on this. So here's what we're gonna do. Shift, Control, Paste, which will change the color of the entire grid, including that guy. All right. 43 thrusters, not very many. Okay, back to mining. Mining. Oh, are we out already? That would suck. We're just on battery power? Wow, we went through that really, really quickly. They have to have changed something in the game, because I've never gone through uranium that quick. That was 2,000 uranium in each one, or at least I think I put. Maybe I never put it in. Maybe I never put it in. It's possible. Maybe I am just stupid. Oh, you know what? There was something else here I needed to fix. So, for example, I'm at 96% oxygen. Please note. This has a gas generator, although it doesn't have anything in it. Alright, so here's the problem. I like indicator lights, so I like being able to see what this thing is actually doing, and I can't do that if I turn this sideways. The problem with not turning it sideways, so I've got two issues here. I've got to connect this oxygen tank in somehow, and I've got to connect the cockpit in somehow. So right now, this is an original design flaw that I didn't discover until later. It was like, oops. But the cockpit is not connected into anything, so it's just sitting there. But I don't want to lose the cockpit. So the question is, how do I? So I can't paste on the front of that, but I can't paste on the front of that. I can't. Oh, that's because I don't have any plate. So let me grab steel plate. And let me just grab some internal while I'm at it. Oh, darn. All right, let me fix the uranium problem first, because I have half the batteries that have a lot and a portion of the batteries that have none. So inventory, react. Those are all going to go to full tilt while they're charging batteries. So the nice thing about this miner is it does have a shit ton of batteries. The downside is that when I'm charging, it does take a absolutely heinous amount of reactor power. All right, so here's the problem. I don't want to lose the cockpit because the cockpit actually has been configured. So there's a lot of configurations and stuff on there. So what I want to do is try and create a way for this cockpit. Cockpits only have two mounting surfaces, bottom and back. So what I want to do here is make sure, which I can actually attach to the side. So what I'm doing is putting this block in. I'm going to go ahead and complete the block, even though I wouldn't really have to do that, as long as the block is mounted. So the block is mounted to these two ion thrusters and the cockpit, so I will not lose the cockpit. In this case, the tank is connected in to the oxygen generator, but the oxygen generator is not connected to the cockpit. The entire reason the oxygen generator is here. So, oops. Okay, so oxygen tank, and you see this port is on the side. I needed that port connected onto here. So oxygen generator. Good, and this is still here and still connected, yes. Alright, so what we need to do is put another oxygen generator in, so I have to put that onto my toolbar. So generator, grab the oxygen generator, we'll put that there. Get it so we can see, and I think we're going to put it in this way, just because. I have battery there. And so I just want to make sure, just making sure. Alright. And And then pull out my welder. Now, the problem is what's going to go there. You know what? Batteries no longer lose their power cells. Darn it, I can't do that anyway. Making sure. Power cells. Used to be that the power cells turn themselves into scrap metal, which was really stupid because a power cell is a power cell. You can't dismantle a power cell, granted, but you're not dismantling a power cell, you're dismantling a battery that contains power cells. For anybody who's taken apart a battery, the lead acid battery is the last battery that you can't actually take apart. So everything else uses modular cells that they paste together, basically. So even very, very large batteries are made up of smaller modular type batteries that are singular batteries that are then connected end to end in series and parallel and a combination of both to make them do what they do. Okay, babble, sorry. So that annoyed me. It just seemed stupid that you would lose power cells because, I mean, that really put a big hindrance in a lot of things that made absolutely no sense. Okay, so welder, this is the sorter that pulls everything out of the drills. So what I was thinking is maybe I have two things here that I could actually put the oxygen tank down here, and clearly that is not the case. So let me weld this back up now that I don't lose my batteries, my power cells. That's a problem. That's where my loop is. Darn it, I just thought of that. So the oxygen generator has a connection port on the bottom and the top. These drills are all connected together, and underneath there is the sorter. So the sorter could actually, so the sorter is dumping into this container here. The reactor right there is connected onto the top of that generator, which means that's its fill point. Damn, this is just getting that much more complicated. This is called reactor minor upper. So that was a control C. Inventory. Oh, sorry, let's go into control panel. I'm going to turn this off and the conveyor system off for that reactor. I'm going to take this material out. I'm going to grind this reactor down. There's a reason for the madness. That's staying there. The reactor. How do you feel about sitting in a cockpit with a reactor under your butt? Ponder on that. A nuclear reactor underneath your ass. Small reactor. Okay, don't need that anymore. Now, we're going to put these ports in specific directions. So one's up and one is facing aft. The reason why is I want this to be an independent conveyor system, which is to say a conveyor system on the other side of the sorter. So there's a lot of design defects in this particular thing that I didn't actually realize until this moment. Ah, why did I do that? Grinder versus welder. Want the welder. Okay, now, so the cockpit is attached onto the reactor. Go back up and over the top here into the hole. So we want to K and name this reactor. So Control V, which is exactly what this guy is. It's already turned on. It's owned by me. Then we'll go into inventory and put the uranium into it. Hey! Alright. Then we'll back out here, and now it doesn't matter which way the oxygen generator goes because I'm not using the side ports. So that goes right in there. Paste. Weld it up. 6. There it is. So all I did was move the reactor forward and now connect in. Okay, but here's the interesting aspect is I've lost my oxygen tank. I really wanted an oxygen tank. So we have to figure out where we can put an oxygen tank. Now, oxygen is not as subject to, oh darn. That means this guy is going dead and did go dead. Wow. Still have a shit ton of batteries, but okay, now the problem is where to put the oxygen tank. That's really what the quandary is here. If I put the oxygen tank, so the oxygen tank can no longer connect in because there's no connection point. So I can't put the oxygen tank back where it was. I can, however, put the oxygen tank here. Now, if I look down below, I've got the antenna that's hanging out here. Gases move through that's a conveyor. So I want to take these two batteries. I'm going to move one of these batteries. G, I need battery, which is here. I'm going to put that in the reactor. I no longer need that, and I no longer need the H2O2 generator. Okay, bear with me. I'm going to move this battery. Okay, sorry, I'm on the tank. I need an oxygen tank as well. So I battery, oxygen tank. I've already got the generator down, so that's good. Okay, so grinder. So now that I don't lose my power cells. So this battery comes out, and this battery comes out. Um, 4. Come on. Okay, and in this case, the oxygen tank was here, and it's symmetrical to the other side, so I'm actually going to put both batteries right here. So number 6, and we're going to weld these batteries back up. Okay, so that way I didn't lose any batteries. I've still got the same number of batteries, and in fact it's symmetrical because the ore detector is on that side and the oxygen tank used to be here. So we're really just moving those 2 batteries from point A to point B, and we are moving the oxygen tank to right here, because we just need a connection point. Alright, so 6 for our welder, and then weld up the oxygen tank. Okay, we need ice and we need uranium. But how much uranium do we steal? How much uranium do we have? 53. And I still have 70k in ore. Okay, I am going to... I need to do that in inventory. Let's do components first. So that goes there, that goes there. All right, refineries. Platinum is great and fine and dandy, but we are in a uranium crisis, not a platinum crisis. Yep, I'm going to fight with Izzy. Which is really to say I'm not going to fight with Izzy. So, block off. Izzy will lose, always. Alright, so. Alright, so I'm gonna deal with the reactors problem. I clearly I have a conveyors on. That's another thing Issy does, because Issy manages the inventory, so when Issy is managing the inventory everything's great, but okay, so okay, inventory 10,000, and it's no longer balancing, so I just stole a lot of uranium out of there. Okay, one more thing I can grind down now is this thing, now that I have everything mounted back up. Ah, and I also failed to grab ice. But I have a drill. So we'll get it here. fill up our inventory with ice. At least I think I'm going to fill up our inventory with ice. Rather than stealing it from the station, I figured it's just as intelligent to get it all from here. After all, I do have this great big huge ice block here. Now, eventually I will have a mineral extractor on the station there, and that's going to take a little while to do because it is quite a bit pricey. How much do we have? 47, not very much. Not very much relative to my inventory. So obviously I have to fill up that oxygen tank, which is going to take a little bit of ice, but I might as well, you know, fill up my entire inventory. I'm drilling anyway. This is where having an advanced drill is really nice, because it drills so much faster. And I think it's quite a bit more efficient too. I think it actually pulls more mineral out of the deposits. Nothing wrong with taking a little bit of iron here at the transition points. Probably enough for now. So, if all goes well, then I get into the T to get into the cab. We're going to go into inventory first. How about generator? So the gas generator, let's go into control panel and gas generator. Medium minor. The reactor can go into the reactors group. In fact, hold on, let me, just to make sure everything is owned by me, which it is, so that's good. Battery 55 and 56 go into the batteries group, so save, make sure those are turned off, off on the toolbar and off on the HUD. The oxygen tank, and I always change things to be tank oxygen, because if I put a hydrogen tank, then that'll be tank hydrogen. So rather than having my tanks in two different places in the inventory list, which is sorted alphabetically, I'll have them right next to each other. Yes, I know that was a totally OCD statement. Alright, reactors in the group called reactors, so save, off on the toolbar and off on the terminal. Oxygen generator, so this is called systems gaseous. Save. Okay, the tank has an inventory, because you can actually put bottles into an oxygen tank and have it fill if you have the settings set correctly. In this case, I want it off on the toolbar. I don't need it, and I'm going to turn it off on the inventory. And because it belongs to a group now, then I can go ahead and turn that off in there, but we'll do that elsewhere. This, it's a singular object, so I want to leave it on the toolbar even though I'm not necessarily going to do anything with it. It does have an inventory because I need to be putting ice in there, and then ultimately I'll take this off on the terminal. So I'm going to click on my group. I see that both of these are highlighted, which is exactly what I want to see, so just click for save just because, and then turn them off on the terminal. So I have my antenna, which is the only thing here, and then right now everything is set up as far as I can get it set up. So having said that, back into inventory to do what we originally needed to do. Our cockpit is here. If everything is working, let's go ahead and start with our reactors. Why? Why? That makes no sense. So we have a container. We have a container that's underneath this, which is into... That's why. Because that... Where is... So let's grind this down just because there's something that is broken here that I don't know why it's broken. Yeah, which is, and there's this container. So, junction being what it is, junction. So the problem, well, actually I don't know what the problem is. So the conveyor here connects everything. So there's a container underneath that. So the conveyor should be connecting into here, into the oxygen tank, and then there's a container underneath this. This is the cargo transmitter here, and then another container, then it goes into this, into the reactor, and then into the cockpit. So just for shits and giggles, let's go ahead and bring up a cockpit, battery and oxygen tank. So for so it's sitting upright. There's my connector. on the bottom. It's facing this way, still on the bottom. And the reactor, which was put in there, facing up and back. So I have a connection through the oxygen generator to the container, but more importantly, directly from the cockpit so I'm in the cockpit, inventory, reactor. So that top reactor, S minor port, lower, starboard, upper. So this one right here is directly connected. Directly fucking connected. Alright. What I either Space Engineers is screwed up, which that of course never happens. So let me grind down this battery again, just because I want to see. Reactor. Here's the reactor. Directly connected. Directly connected. Well, at this point, the game is broken. I can't move. At least I think it's broken. Let me see, can I shift? So I can shift stuff in. So theoretically, what should have happened there... Oh, never mind. I am a fucking idiot. I was grabbing ice, not uranium. So, once again, I'm broken. So, generator, never mind. We're gonna go back up and test because... Alright, wow. That's what I get for not looking at my icons, right? So, generator first. Which we should be able to shift. Yep. Goes right in. Good, good, good. Container. The problem is if I put that in there, it will just pull it right out. Okay, reactors. Uranium, how about? Let's grab the uranium. That was a Control C, so I can do this a little easier. Through uranium really quickly. Okay. Wow. That was a just monumental screw up on my part there. But maybe that means this is a good place to stop this episode and come back into the other one. So we're just about 3 hours for this particular video, so that's probably a good time. So this is Kenty Taggers signing off. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you next time.